Welcome back to the final episode in our series on the 5 most critical elements of an investable business plan. As I've previously discussed, incorporating each of the elements covered in this series will markedly improve your ability to raise capital and, more generally, enable your business to achieve greater long-term success. Today, I'm going to discuss our 5th and final element in an investable business plan: planning for reinvestment. Have you designed a business plan that contemplates aggressive, ongoing reinvestment? And I'm not just talking about reinvestment in operational capacity. I'm talking about the type of strategic, ongoing reinvestment that is going to keep you one step ahead of your competition. Let me explain. Let's say you found a way to manufacture a children's thermos with a funny saying on it for $2. And you've also found a way to sell that thermos on eBay for $19. If your plan is to simply invest $2 in and get $19 out indefinitely, that's fine. But if that's all you plan to do, at some point your business is going to fail. You have to reinvest more strategically. You see, there are 2 fundamental ways that an entrepreneur can reinvest in his or her business. And most entrepreneurs tend to get locked in on the first. This is what I like to call vertical reinvesting. In the thermos example, vertical reinvesting might involve increasing production from, say, 1,000 thermoses a month to 100,000 thermoses a month by contributing more capital to buy all the necessary molds, materials, equipment, and what have you. There's nothing wrong with this approach. It's just one part of the equation. The other part of the equation is what I like to call horizontal reinvesting. Horizontal reinvesting requires an entrepreneur to think more creatively. How can you take your successful thermos business and further monetize it without simply doing more of the same? Perhaps you could attach a unique character to each thermos you produce. And maybe you could create a children's book that makes these characters come to life, all using their thermoses to survive on different adventures. Or perhaps you could create a YouTube series with the same sort of theme. And maybe you could expand your product line, maybe beyond thermoses, maybe to lunch pails, backpacks, maybe even scooters with little thermos holders. All of these concepts would, of course, require reinvestment. And you might be sitting there saying, why wouldn't I just take all of my money and simply do more of what's working? Why should I veer off in all these different directions, pursuing complex projects that have no guarantee of success? Well, first of all, you should be doing more of what's working. But if you don't also think horizontally, you're going to become a victim of your own success. Others will inevitably see what you are doing and they will copy you. By working horizontally, you'll be able to build on your lead instead of constantly looking back at the competition in fear. If you reinvest properly, both horizontally and vertically, you will start to develop what Warren Buffett likes to call a moat around your business. Imagine if you not only manufactured thermoses, but you manufactured a bunch of other products for school-age kids. And these products all connected back to your catalog of characters and your YouTube content. Imagine if you had thousands of kids viewing your videos online every day. It would be very hard for a new competitor to come along and try to replicate what you're doing and take away your market share. When you start a business, it's very important to plan for both vertical and horizontal reinvestment from the beginning. There's no point in starting a new venture merely to accomplish some sort of fleeting success. You want to leverage your early success to build a foundation for the long term. Okay, so this being the final episode in our series, I want to leave you with a brief summary of each of the concepts we've covered. The 5 most critical elements of an investable business plan. Now, number 1, first and foremost, you have to make sure that you are delivering value to your end consumer, and not just to you and your shareholders. Second, you need to design your business to be scalable in order to attract investment capital to reach your early milestones. Again, the more capital you raise early on, the more runway you have to achieve those milestones. Third, you need to follow the competition. And it may sound counterintuitive, but you've got to focus where there's an established market. evolution, not revolution, typically creates the most shareholder value the quickest. Fourth, you need to make sure that you have charted the fastest path to revenue to be able to support the continued development of your bigger vision. And finally, as we've discussed in detail in this episode, you need to design a business plan that calls for both vertical and horizontal reinvestment to stay ahead of your competition. If you're able to implement each one of these elements in your next business plan, you will have a much higher likelihood of being deemed investable in the eyes of individual accredited investors and funds alike. Not to mention, you will be statistically much more likely to have long-term stability. I want to thank you again for joining me in this series. I know it's been quite a lot of information. Should you wish to discuss your particular business and how we may be able to be of service in your particular scenario, please feel free to schedule a consultation at glassboxlaw.com. I look forward to seeing you soon on our platform, and thank you again for viewing.